it's very hard to be good at something you don't like or you're not deeply interested in. You might get further along, maybe like a year or two, but eventually you'll hit a roadblock. Like, so just be honest from the start. Be honest with yourself. Like, fuck everyone, man. Lie to them, bullshit them, whatever. I'm not suggesting you do that, but I'm saying that never lie to yourself.
Today, we have a very interesting and unique individual. He is an ex-IBM software backend developer, intern, and he decided to quit before completely finishing it. And he has his certain reasons, which we will discuss today. So, first of all, want to introduce yourself? Who you are?
Yeah. So I'm finished my third year of software engineering, from the University of Calgary, and currently I've been on internship for the last since May 2022, 14 months, and recently I've resigned from my internship. And I'm going to be talking about why and what kind of led me to that decision and why I realized software engineering isn't for me. And I think there's lots of good information here for people who are struggling with, I'm sure everyone has doubts whether something's for them or not. I'm going to be going in depth of why it wasn't for me, and maybe it can help someone out there. I think I'm going to be exploring it from like a little bit of a nuance or a different perspective. Seems very obvious now, but I think it might help someone who's going through things and is not sure whether something's for them or not.
Beautiful stuff right here. I am excited to hear from you. So, first question, what got you into coding?
So the first time I actually started coding was around grade 10. The reason why I got into coding is actually not because I like coding necessarily. It was more like because coding gives you the ability to make things and build things, right? Unlike any other type of profession, you don't need anything. Like, for example, if you're a chemical engineer, you need, chemicals to make something. If you're an electrical engineer, you need, I don't know, some kind of like electrical tools, maybe a soldering kit, metal, and some other things, and wires and physical things are limited. But in software, you're not limited by anything. There's no inherent limitation except for you and a computer. That's all you need. So that's the reason why I got into it, because I was like, hey, I can make things and I can do things. And I was hoping maybe I could get like a business up with it or do something like that with it.
Okay. That was very similar to what I realized, and that's how it started. I noticed how the possibilities are endless with coding, because all you need is a laptop and your fingers, and you can create whatever you want.
I think it's one thing unique about software is that I don't know of any other industry that's like that. I think maybe media is similar, like video recording or like some type of like media type stuff, but that's like more on the artsy front. But the thing is, I think there's real business applications for this, and I think it's like really useful, and it's on the internet and anyone can access it. It's not like it's limited by like it's a physical thing you need to go and see it in person. It's like anyone can access it on the internet.
So now let's get into your decision to go into software engineer as a major in university. Why did you decide to pick that?
So I'm brown, first of all. So you know how it is with brown families. It's always some kind of like, whether it be engineering of some kind or some kind of like industrial profession that's going to lead to that there's, money and you can get a job. You're not going to be homeless. You're not going to get employed or something like that. Nothing crazy.
That's the best.
Sorry about that. But that's like the goal with me. Out of all the different like majors, software was the most interesting to me because it's the one that I dislike the most, not the one I like the most. In the sense that like it's like out of all the majors, it's like process of elimination. That's one.
Just like the least to me.
I mean, like I'm like I don't want to do chemical. I don't want to do electrical. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, and then led to software being the option.
You said you disliked it the most. You mean dislike the least?
I mean, dislike the least. My bad.
Okay.
But yeah, that's like the main thing with it. And then also, like, I would do business, but in my personal opinion, I feel like business degree isn't really worth it. It's not as practical. So with engineering, things are practical. You can actually do things. You actually learn things. Even though the degree could use a lot of work, like in these universities, actually horrible. But it's out of all of the options, I just thought it's like the most practical at the end of the day, and it would lead to something.
Yeah.
And there's good money in it. Like, let's be honest. I think this is the time where it's one of the best times to get into software. So the money's great, and not many professions you can get a great starting salary.
Yeah, especially like back in like 2019.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like a lot of other types of engineers don't have jobs. Like I know a lot,
Yeah.
and it's scary to think about.
But we're not gonna think about that today because you're not going there. Okay. Um. So, how? Tell me the process of you getting the job, the IBM job, and what was going through your mind before starting and when you started, when you first came here. Your expectations, the realities of beginning here.
So the way I got the job was just by, I guess, applying for lots of internships.
Yeah.
Well, it's not too complicated, but in terms of expectations, now my situation is a bit unique. So in IBM, which is the company that I got the internship with, there's lots of different, it really depends on the team. My team was unique that I got a team where it's like a startup basically inside of IBM, which means that you're working in a big company, but at the same time you're working in a startup. So you're doing everything. So the expectations were pretty high. And I was not aware of this at the time, but what I realized later was that one of the senior engineers, he thought I was a master's student. So they had high expectations of me coming in. And I was not aware of this for a long time, which explains a lot of confusion down the line that happened. Because they thought I was like I had a master's in data science or something like that, and I was like, I did not know it at the time. That they didn't know I had a bachelor's degree and I was only 3 years into it. So this is just the point that'll come in later to the story. I just want to get it out there. But my expectations were, this is going to be something where it's going to be a lot of learning. My manager set the expectation in the beginning that you're not going to be treated as an intern at all. Because it's basically a startup, the teams are very small. We're developing and moving very, very fast. So the expectations was just like, it's going to be like, you're not going to be treated like an intern. This is my first internship, so I don't have any previous experience. But in the beginning, I can say it was very difficult. A lot of things were happening. It was very confusing. So the first thing is when I came, they started throwing me into, first thing they threw me is to cloud development. They didn't really help me or tell me what I was going to do. They're like, yeah, so get this thing done. I'm like, I don't know anything. You don't need to talk to me about anything. They just came and they're like, go. These guys are senior engineers. These guys have been at the company for 20 years, 20, 40 years. So they're not used to maybe working with an intern who literally knows nothing. From school, it doesn't teach you much. We did some projects in school, but nothing that's really going to help me here. And they just threw me into OpenShift and everything. It was a very messy situation. But yeah, so the first few months were very tough because a lot of things were going on. And not just that, they were also throwing me into some back-end roles as well, like different things at the same time without a lot of guidance and a lot of support. And that was just really hard as well. So that was the first, I would say,
Hurdle.
First 6 months, the biggest, it was a pretty big hurdle, coming into the internship. And yeah, it was just chaos is the best way to describe it. Because inside of a startup, my managers or my senior developers would literally be yelling at each other. They'll be having arguments. They're French, so it's they're literally having arguments, and they're kind of getting a little bit loud sometimes. It was kind of an interesting experience, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of learning, a lot of things going on at the same time, so that was interesting. So that's what my first, I would say, May till maybe November, December, if it was
You're gonna say that's the first phase of this internship.
Yeah, I was just the first phase, and I was working on different back-end things and a lot of different things they're throwing me into. But one thing I want to say is that during this time, in the beginning of the internship, I was kind of interested and I was just kind of keeping up and everything. But as the internship went on, more and more, especially after the first 5-6 months around-ish, I kind of started to really question if this is what I wanted to do. First of all, I was not really good at it. Let's start there. This is one of the things, this is my first time that I've worked with people who have real talent. I've never seen people who are geniuses, I guess you can say, is or working with them. But these guys, these French guys, man, they were actual geniuses. Like there's no other word to put it. Like one of the guys, senior dev, his like he just remembers everything. He just somehow knows everything. He's managing so many things at the same time. I'm just like, how does he do it? And these guys work so fast, it's crazy. I know they have experience, but experience is one thing and talent is another. And these guys are definitely talented. The other guy, he had like 40 plus experience, working in the industry. He's also a professor and stuff, and he's just a mad genius is the word to describe him. That's what he is. And that's kind of when I realized that, like, okay, this is what real software engineering people are like. These guys are actually passionate. They actually care about it. They actually enjoy it. And this is kind of when I started realizing that, like, I don't really enjoy it. Um, um, and then this is where I first had doubts whether this is something for me or something is not for me. This is like the first kind of phase where I was kind of like, my doubts were starting to creep in. And yeah,
So first was the chaos phase, and then that slowly turned into the doubting phase. And was imposter syndrome part of that doubting phase? Was it an influence?
so the thing is, my imposter syndrome wasn't, I feel like, you good? But yeah, I would say imposter syndrome wasn't that much. I mean, sounds kind of weird to say. It's like one hand I'm saying I'm not good at it, the other hand I'm saying like I didn't really have imposter syndrome. Just because I felt like I didn't really have. I don't know how to describe it, but I didn't really feel like I had imposter syndrome. It's hard to explain. For me, I think it was more like they're just throwing me to these different things, and you have to research and learn a lot. And I think I just really didn't enjoy learning and researching these things. Um, Looking back at it, it's kind of obvious, but at the time, it was like kind of questioning myself. It was like, do I A, suck at it, or do I B, just not like it? I mean, usually when I suck at something, I usually don't like it. They kind of go hand in hand, but at that time, it's kind of hard to distinguish. Is it something that I don't like, or is it just because I'm bad at it? So yeah, I mean, there's kind of that as well element. But kind of like the second phase, the couple months after is when I kind of really just started to really question whether this is something I even wanted to do. Um, you know, the one thing that I really appreciate is that inside of IBM, I believe I got the best internship that you can get. I had one of the best teams that you can possibly have, like very, very talented. Um, so so when it comes to like looking at the internship, whether I want to do it or not, there's like multiple variables, right? There's like me, there's the team, there's the work. I think they gave me important work. It was definitely relevant. It was definitely high impact. The team was amazing. I can't complain about the team, although they didn't really provide much support. Just because they're so busy with so many things going up in a startup, basically. It's kind of chaos, but I would say that the team was still good. And then I just thought it was like me, like first of all, I'm not really that great at, like, I'm like okay at coding. I would say it's just kind of like meh. And then when, especially look at the team, it was kind of like, when you see real talent and what people who actually like software engineering and they actually like it and they have had experience with it, it's just very demotivating to kind of work with them because it kind of like it's like they're like up here, your skill level's down here, and it just kind of like highlights that difference in the gap. And I realized that the gap wasn't just experience. Experience is one of them, but I mentioned like there's some people who have like affinity for like problem solving and technical things. I just realized I didn't because I was asking like simple questions multiple times and they were explaining it well, but I just didn't get it. And I feel like that's what kind of when I had again doubts about whether I like it or not. And then the more I like thought about it, the more I kind of like realized that like software engineering, like it's not that like the internship necessarily isn't for me. It's more like more fundamental that I feel like software engineering, specifically programming, is not for me. It's not the different parts of programming. It's just that I don't actually enjoy it is the main thing. I thought I should like it. I thought it would be nice to like it. I like talking about it. I like thinking about it, but I don't actually enjoy the act of programming itself, which sounds so simple, right? Now, like looking at it, it's like, but I feel like at the time it was kind of like like I was trying to justify that. I was trying to tell myself I should like programming, I should like it because it's a great, there's money in it. There's all these great benefits, great team, remote work, all these amazing things, but I didn't actually like the activity of it itself. And that's just something that like took me a while to accept. And it was hard to distinguish, especially in the beginning, whether I like it or whether I really actually like it, or am I just telling myself I should like it. And it just took me like a while to kind of like really accept that, like just really admit that you suck at something. It took me some humility to do that. It like literally is like, because like I think especially now where we live in a world where it's like you just need more practice, you just need to do more of this, which is true to an extent. You definitely need to like try multiple times, but I feel like there's like times and things that you just suck at. Like some people suck at art, some people suck at math, some people suck at English. It's like I suck at this, and it just took me some time to really admit that. It was kind of a little bit scary as well, because it's like, well, if software engineering, which I did 3 years of degree, I landed an internship for 16 months, had this great opportunity, and just kind of then realizing that it's not for me is just kind of like I don't know, kicking the balls, I guess is the way to.
I think it's worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, like mentally, right? Because it's like everyone, like especially where I'm from, like not everyone got great internships. Some people had, like some of my friends, didn't have great internships, and then I felt like I was just what do you call it? Not grateful, in some ways, and just I felt like I should like it. Again, I should do this. I was trying to justify it, but I just had to accept that I suck at it and it's not for me. And it took me a while to admit that it's also okay,
I really admire your courage to accept what you like and what you don't like. And I feel like, as I said, it takes real courage to just accept that. And it is important to remember that if you don't accept it now, it's not going to get better later. It's going to get worse. So, well, obviously, you did not lose the past 3 years of your university or your internship, but it kind of feels like that mentally, right?
Yeah, it definitely.
And that has a huge weight on you, like that's pushing you not to quit, right? Not to go to the other side, whichever it is. But yeah, people have to remember, if not now, later is going to be worse. So
one more thing about my internship that I got to see was unique because I'm in a startup. I get to see what a senior developer does, what an intern does. I mean, there was no intern role, but you get to see kind of like what a CEO does. You get to see every part of like the process and the whole charade. And after seeing the whole charade, I realized that like it's just not for me. I think after some time you have to admit that you suck at something. Because only after I can admit I suck at something, I can try something new. I can't move forward until I accept that I suck. Like if I'm always in denial, if I kept on being in denial about it, then I can't move forward, So yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it just felt horrible. Now one thing I want to talk about, like, is it okay for us to talk about like how people reacted to me kind of realizing that like I don't want to do this and I want to resign.
on that topic of changing direction of your career, well, I'm pretty sure we've heard a lot of people talk about how they're 30 years old and they were in this field, and they switched to software and all that stuff.
But this is the opposite.
Wait, what am I trying to approach now? What am I trying to reach? Basically, I don't think it's a bad thing that you're changing directions, especially now, and What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say is that sometimes it takes going through like the whole process of actually working in that corporate job to know if that's for you or not. And even though you've spent the past 4 years working towards that goal of reaching a corporate job, it's okay to move past it, to change direction. And yeah, because you have your whole life ahead of you. You don't want to stick yourself into this specific area of life that you don't really enjoy anymore. So accepting it is for the best, for the future and for you now. Now let's move to, what would you say or recommend to people who went into software just for the money, computer science and anything just for the money?
So this is a really interesting question. I used to believe that I was more motivated by money than I am now. There's a time where I had like nothing to my, like pretty much nothing. Now I have a little bit of money. For me at least, it's a lot because I went from like pretty much nothing to something. So thing is, when you get money, I think, at least for me, I had to like understand that like, did it actually make me happy when I got my paycheck? And the answer was no. I actually didn't really, like, I never really smiled when I got my paycheck. It was just like, okay, the money's there, okay, it's there.
Yeah.
It's like I thought I was more motivated by money than I'm not. Where I feel like most people, it's like, they pretend they're not motivated by money, but they actually are. Mine is like, I thought I was motivated by money, but it turns out I'm not.
So like the thought of the money was more attractive than the money itself.
Which is really, really weird to say. Yeah. I mean, just kind of realizing that, like, now I know that, like, I've learned a lot about myself and, like, things I want and things I don't want. It's just kind of, like, just interesting to know that, like, okay, I don't care that much about money. It's, like, I want money. I would like lots of it. But I'm just saying that it's not the biggest motivator for me. For me, I think I realized that, like, something I need to enjoy. Maybe that's a DNA trait I have. Maybe it's just the way I'm wired or something, but it is what it is. Just accepting that. And, like, one more thing is, like, if you're doing it just for the money, that's cool. But ask yourself, are you really in it for the money or like you can still do it for the money. There's nothing wrong with that. But, like, at least don't hate. You don't have to necessarily like it, but at least don't hate it, right? Or don't really dislike it. Just make it so it's bearable for you. Or at the very least, you can sit on a computer for like 8 hours a day, or 7 hours a day. And just make sure it's something that you can do.
You gotta remember, you're doing this for the rest of your life, so yeah. In relation to what we talked about before that question, as you noticed, he learned that thing when he actually experienced that thing. So just as I mentioned before, it's not bad to change direction after going through a whole experience. And
one thing I do want to say is that this all happened during internship, right? Which really helped me, because if I did this during like a full time, because as an intern I got to see back end, front end, DevOps. I didn't really do front end, but I got to see parts of it, and then, like, I just got to see everything. So it's like it's easier to change as an intern, because if you think about internship, it's still like a bonus to your degree. It's not anything in like post grad. So being able to change it as an intern is very good, because you get to taste a lot of things easily without any kind of, like, I don't know, restriction. Whereas I think if you're full time, then it's more like, hey, you're already kind of down this route, then it's more like streamlined. But as an intern, it's still kind of, the roads are still open. You haven't really picked a road to go on.
that is true. And that is one thing that universities get right about internships.
That's all.
So yeah, they're right about that. And that's why it's good to go through an internship experience to know if that's the right direction for you or not. Okay, now let's move forward with how did you deal with that? Like when you after that chaos period and then that doubting period, what did you do during that doubting period? Did you do anything about it, or you just kept working?
It was actually very, very hard to work. Through that period. Just on a side note, I think I was going through depression as well. Like, maybe still am a little bit. So there was actually a whole month and a half where I couldn't actually work. I don't know if this was a depression or because of realizing this, but I literally physically like could not sit at a computer like and do anything. Like it was pretty bad. Funny to say now, but yeah, I don't think I've really dealt with it. It just kind of happened. Nothing really helped. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but it's the answer that's true.
Was it because of work?
I think work was part of it, but I don't necessarily know if it's the full reason.
So it's like 6 months into your job, your internship.
This was December. So May,
Seven, seven-ish, 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that after that depression period, what lit you up? After what broke, what stopped that depression period?
I don't. I think it was just like time. Like time just. I'm still going through a little bit of. I'm not gonna lie. It's not over yet. Like I'm checking in with myself. It's like I think the worst is gone, but I think there's some still left over, and I can definitely feel that inside of me. So I it's not like I've dealt with it. It's just time kind of just like lets things out. But I feel like that kind of period just like let out something inside of me, just like was there, and it kind of like a bubble. It kind of burst, and it was kind of ugly at the time for a month and a half, and then it just kind of like slowly like shit healed out. Not, I don't know if it's healed fully, but I'm definitely not at my best right now at all. As much as I would like to say I am, but I'm not. To be honest, I want to be as honest as I can in this interview and just like actually let out my thoughts and things. But I would say, you know, I mean, since January, I guess I was not doing much work. I mean, um, it was just very, very hard to focus because like after that period, I kind of like realized that this is probably not for me. It was still like a big doubt. I hadn't fully like made the decision to resign at that point in time.
January?
Yeah, in January, like this was around the time where like I really had those thoughts and kind of solidifying in my head. But as time went on, then I kind of like slowly more and more realized that like, hey, I don't want to do it. One other thing to note is that I did let my boss kind of like know that I don't really like program, and they gave me an offer to work as a product owner. And that didn't work out either. And then I also got the offer from, now this guy isn't the actual CEO of the team I'm in, but he's actually above it, like a portfolio manager that runs the different startups inside. Um, he basically gave me the chance to be like the what do you call it? A right hand man of him, and kind of help him with whatever's going on. And he basically was like, hey, I want to keep giving you tasks. If there's anything specifically you want to work on the business side of things, you can choose anything. And he gave me that kind of offer. And I tried to work with him for a little bit, like a couple of weeks, but I realized that like it wasn't working out either. Now I don't know if it's burnout for me. It could be burnout. I'm not exactly sure yet, or it could just be like me realizing that like I just need like a mental break from things, like a mental reset. So I decided that, you know, I want to resign. And what led to that thought process was like, okay, like how am I working? My mental health is not good at all. I can't even focus or work for like more than like 20, 30 minutes at a time. I can't really think clearly. It's like my brain's very foggy. So I'm like, it's best just to, cut it here. And yeah, this happened after talking with my manager. He's like, I can give you a couple different options. Like I said, he gives me random tasks, or I pick a task to work on. Or he's like, and he mentioned at one point, is like, do you even want to work here? And then after talking to him on Monday about that, this was like maybe 2 weeks ago. or or a week ago actually,
Last one.
last Monday. And then on Wednesday we talked again, and I'm like, after Monday I basically went home and I thought about the different options he gave me, and then I'm like, you know what? Like the option that appealed the most is just terminate it. And what I realized was that I don't know how to explain this, but it just felt like it was the right decision. I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever made a decision and it just felt like it was the right one, like the second I was like, yeah, I kind of want to do this, like my body immediately just felt so comfortable. Like I just felt so, it just felt so right inside of my. This sounds like some spiritual thing, but like I don't know, but like it just felt like it was the right call.
I don't know about the comfortable part. That that kind of signifies that you're being a pussy. Like you're escaping challenge. So
In my opinion, the thought you got about being a pussy, I think I'd be more of a pussy if I stayed. Because like I feel like when you know something's not right for you and you keep on going, I think you're a pussy. If you realize that something's not right and you're doing it, you're actually a pussy because that's what a pussy is. Right, doing something, they do things they don't want to do. And I'm not trying to hate on anyone. I'm not saying I'm some like alpha chat or some shit like that. I'm just saying that for me, like it like first of all, like I'm not in the mental health condition to do it, right? Even if I wanted to. But the second thing is that like I don't want to do it. Like I don't know how to explain it, but something like inside of me was just like fuck no. Like that's probably the best explanation I can give you, but it's not necessarily a logical explanation. But you know, there are times where like logic goes out the window. You know, like when your mental health is fucked, man, nothing else matters. Because without mental health, I don't know, I can't do shit. I can't enjoy life or anything like that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm getting paid. I can't enjoy it. Doesn't matter if I'm working. Can't enjoy it. Can't enjoy anything.
yeah, good. Okay. Um. Yeah, I think you described what being a pussy is accurately. It was like not quitting a job when you know it's the right thing to do.
When you know it's not the right thing for you, because it's like, I mean, like the thing is, I could do it just to satisfy my parents, and you know, like
Satisfy anyone.
satisfy anyone. And one thing I want to say is that like I knew quitting my job would give me a lot of judgment from people, like people turning an eye, people saying shit, and that happened. Um, you know, and like I like in like instead of me kind of like trying to run away from the fact that like I'm quitting my job, I tried, instead of hiding it, I didn't hide that fact at all. I'm sure Rami, as you know, I kind of like was very vocal about it, and I think a pussy would be not telling people and just kind of hiding in the shadows. That's what a pussy would do. But I think I took the opposite approach. I'm like, if I'm telling people, you know, if I'm quitting, I should let people know, and I should let them know why. Cause if I don't tell them why, people are gonna make up a reason why. And if I just leave abruptly, it's just gonna be weird. So I think it's better to let people know. And what they think is what they think. That's none of my business. I can't control what someone thinks. Their thoughts are their thoughts. Their beliefs are their beliefs. They can say what they want, think what they want. But for me, it's really like about just kind of like telling people like, hey, you know, I literally told like my entire like the other interns that I work with, like, I'm quitting because I suck and it's not right for me. Like I literally said I suck, like word for word. Um, and after telling them, people are kind of like giving me the eye, like, what the fuck is going on? And then afterwards, even as on my last day of internship, or a couple days ago when last time I saw them, they're kind of like, yeah, good luck with your travels, you know, like they were like, you can tell they're kind of like like in their head they're thinking like, why would you actually do this? And I was telling them it's not right for me, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, like you can definitely tell like um there's a lot of judgment inside them, even though their words are, yeah, you know what, best luck with whatever you're doing in the future. You know, just the way they're saying it, just I can feel the judgment coming from it, and I think I'm fine with it. Thankfully, I'm at a place in my life where I can like withstand people's judgment, and it's been very negative. So yeah.
I personally wouldn't blame them for judging.
Oh, one more thing. I don't blame them. I mean, like, I can definitely see from their perspective why they would think that.
That's one thing I noticed, that a lot of things that we see and conclude about events in our lives is very biased to our own experiences. So don't be mad or pissed when someone is not able to see what you see, because the chances of that happening is very low. It happens, obviously. Some people have the same perspective sometimes, but you shouldn't expect anyone to have the same perspective as you, because we've all gone through very unique experiences, and we've all um um processed them differently in our heads. Like even twins who've lived together their whole lives with the same family, with the same friends, could be completely different in when they grow up because of how they process these information, these experiences. So let's say if you're doing it in a different country, how different could you guys be? A lot. That's another topic. I just felt like going off topic because that's something I recently like noticed, and yeah, it's good to remind myself.
And one more thing, Rami, I feel like you also had judgment towards me, and I think
Well,
could you please talk about that? Because I feel like this will give people insight into like from the outside what things were looking. And then Rami and we talked more, and then he's like, okay, no, I actually genuinely believe you now. So like talk about how you felt about it at first, and
so when he first said it, obviously, I didn't believe him. He was like, oh, he's just joking, even though he's not like that kind of person who does that joke. But he did it, and he was recording me for some reason. I was like just confused,
I wanted to get his reaction. I wanted to get his reaction.
and I wasn't convinced until he showed me the conversation with his boss, and I was like, okay. I was just like, why? That was my first response. Why? And I don't exactly remember what you said at that time, but over time, as he told me the exact story behind it as he's shared right now, um, I began to notice how I had a lot of doubts, and I did talk to him about it. Like, is it really that you don't want to this or that, or is it because you're a pussy, for example? Like that was one of the questions and doubts that I had.
Sorry.
um, but yeah, I cleared up my doubts and my judgments by talking to him, and
What's funny is that initially he's like, I'm a pussy for quitting, but like now it's like I would have been a pussy if I stayed, which is like complete 180.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that statement? I'll be
Yeah.
a pussy for staying.
yes,
That was a very powerful yes.
it takes a lot of courage deciding to switch your whole career.
180. And then also one more thing is the judgment I get from my parents. Wild. I mean, I know they want the best for me and everything like that, but like they don't. Thing is, I feel like everyone just kind of like views it as like, why would you do it? And I understand them. Understand
Level.
like I don't blame them for having a surface level view. I mean, like if I heard someone doing that, I would think the same thing. Like I'm not like I understand where they're coming from. Like I have the humility to kind of like accept, like understand, but because I used to be that guy who used to judge, people like that too. Like, oh my god, you're a pussy for doing that. Like it's like when you don't really understand something, then that's what you just put labels on people, without really knowing why.
Makes you kind of think how much we
Turning into life.
subconsciously judge people,
Oh, absolutely. We judge.
like without even noticing. By just knowing surface level information, we just make um these assumptions on like the reason behind that. We did not talk about the difference between sucking at something and knowing that you're not
Good at something. Like if it's for you or if it's not.
and like could you be better at it, or is it not? It's like a lost cause. You have something to say?
Oh, I have lots of words on this topic. For example,
Go ahead.
let me just hold it. Basically, For me, this is something that I question myself a lot on coding, especially. I'm like, I like throughout like university and high school, like I took some Udemy courses and then I kept on stopping while doing the course. And I'm like, is it because I'm being lazy? Is it like I always thought I was just being lazy and I was just being undisciplined and I'm like, I would pick it up again. And then I would have these cycles where like I would go for a little bit and then I would like forget it and then do it again and then like looking back, it's obvious I was forcing myself, and at that time I was like forcing myself too. I was like, you know what? It's just because I suck at it. I need to keep doing it. And you just do more, 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 and keep trying. But I think that if you're inherently lazy about something, I think there's a lot of information on that because you're lazy towards like at least I'm lazy towards things I don't like, and it tells you that you don't like something. When you like something, you're not lazy towards it. You just do it. Like with a friend that you want to meet, you'll find a way to meet them. But if you're finding yourself that you're constantly lazy towards something, it's probably a better indication that you don't like it. And you need to stop listening to like what other people say and stuff. It's like you just don't like it, and then just accepting that completely. Not everything's for everyone. Some people like coffee, some people like tea, some people like vanilla, some people like chocolate, some people like strawberry. Like we all have different preferences and stuff. We're different, like I'm different. I like different things than what Rami likes, right? And just really accepting that not everything's for everyone. Some things you like, some things you don't like, some things will be better, some things you won't. And just kind of like, and one other thing I realized that like, I could continue down this road, but the thing is, I'll never be a good software engineer. I'll always suck because it's not something I like. And I'm like, do I want to be a shitty software engineer? Probably not. I think I could be a decent one at best, but I don't think I would ever reach top 10% at all, like zero chance. And it just took some time for me to swallow that pill.
And even if you did, would that be a fulfilling life that you feel like you had?
I feel like I wouldn't be able to go that long because I feel like I'm the type of person who has to like kind of at least enjoy something. Like I don't know, like that's not the kind of like you work 8 hours in a day, man. Like money, yeah, like definitely is very important in life. I'm not gonna say it's not, but I feel like for me, I might have a better shot at other things. And one door, and I'm not saying software engineering is not for me. I'm just saying the programming part of software engineering, that part is not for me. Maybe there's something else that I'm better. Maybe there's something else that I'm, have potential. But I know that at least the programming part specifically, developing, is just not for me.
One thing I would like to pinpoint on is, what was the thing? Basically the concept of forcing yourself to like something. As what happened to them, a good way to kind of explain that thing is it's like a spring, and when you force yourself, the more you force yourself, that spring's gonna get pulled more and more, and there's gonna come a point where that spring is gonna get very weak and just break, and him quitting kind of signifies how his spring broke and he no longer wants to do it anymore. And I don't know about the other people in this world, but if you think you're currently in a very weak spring because you've been constantly forcing yourself to like something that you don't really enjoy,
Stop forcing yourself, man. I feel like one thing is like it took me a while to like I had these mentalities of these are things I should do, and the thing is, if you tell yourself you should do something again and again, it's probably something from not even your own voice internally. It's probably from someone else. You probably got that shit from someone else's bullshit that they're trying to put some horseshit inside you. They want to make you believe something. They want to tell you something. They're like, you should like this. You should enjoy this. Like, what do you mean you should? Like, what the fuck? Like, that's actually the dumbest thing you could say to a person. Like you enjoy what you enjoy. You like what you like. It's there's no you should like something. There's like should is just some made up thing people made up. You should do nothing. You should not do anything. But one thing I'll say is that once you stop listening to these shoulds, you can start listening to what's inside of you and start listening to that inner voice inside of you. And the more shoulds that you have in your life, the less you can hear that shit. is what I'm
inside of you.
is what's like. It sounds corny, but like I don't know how to explain this, but there's an inner intuition you have. It's like a lantern in like a dark forest. It kind of lights up a little bit of the way, but you can't use that intuition that you have, that like thing inside you, that voice that's telling you something that you can't explain just with logic or just with reason. It's, I don't know what it is, but it's somehow there. But it kind of can give you a lot of indication about things. Like it's the kind of voice that at the same time tell you like, hey, I click with this person immediately. Like it's not reason, it's not intellectual, it's just something else. I don't know, it just exists.
Spiritual.
I don't know, spiritual, what it is, intuition, gut, call it whatever you want, but it's something that's not reason. That I know for sure.
And it gets darkened, erased, and hidden with the
More feels.
external voices of shoulds and like parents, like the internet, like social media, friends, whatever, bosses, money, anything that stops you from looking within yourself, listening to yourself. Do you want to share your future? Do you want to share your future plans now that you are free of work?
My future plans. So I have about 2 months until school starts again for my fourth year. Plan is mainly to travel and maybe start a business or something. But if I'm gonna be very, very honest with you, the real reason why I quit is also because I wanna just focus on my mental health. Just because without mental health, at least I believe I've learned actually. I don't believe this anymore. I know there's nothing else like this physical health, and then there's mental health. And physical health is one thing you kind of like is one thing, but like mental health is something that like I want to really focus on for these last 2 months. I want to travel and do some other things, but really just hone in on that. Because if I'm not in a good place mentally, I can't enjoy anything. It doesn't matter what you put in front. Like if I'm not in a good place mentally, then ew. There's nothing else, and that's it. That's it.
So let's say a person is currently in university who decided to do software, and they're kind of having these doubts where they don't really enjoy it, and they never really enjoyed it, but they went into it for the money. What do you recommend for them?
I think it really comes down to the type of person you are. Some people are gonna say don't do anything for the money. I mean, people do things for the money all the time. Just really ask yourself, what are you motivated by, and just be honest as you can. Like, I think one of the most important things is being honest as you can with yourself. Like, it's very easy to lie to yourself. It's easy to lie to other people, but it's even easier to lie to yourself. Never lie to yourself.
It's easier said than done, though.
It's so hard to do because the thing is, you have to test it, right? To see if it's like evidence is the only thing that like experience is the only thing that kind of like allows to see what you actually like, what you don't like, what you want to do, what you don't want to do. There's no other way to know. I mean, like you can't just like be like, oh, I know, like what? So yeah, that's what I was.
You're looking very beautiful today, bro. You're looking very beautiful today.
That sounds mad sus. That sounds mad sus, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
This kind of links back to this kind of links to purpose. What motivates you, as you said. And this is a topic for next episode.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting question, and we'll talk about it next time about purpose and what it is and how it motivates a person and the reason for being.
Okay, is there a final any final questions you want me to ask you?
It's not a question, but I would just be as honest as you can. Like, I mean, like, look, I know it sounds corny and stuff like that, and I'm sure you've heard other people say that, but like, if you're gonna like, this is just my personal thoughts on something. It's very hard to be good at something you don't like, or you're not deeply interested in. You might get further along, maybe like a year or two, but
Eventually.
eventually you'll hit a roadblock. Like, so just be honest from the start. Be honest with yourself. Like, fuck everyone, man. Lie to them, bullshit them, whatever. I'm not suggesting you do that, but I'm saying that never lie to yourself. Like some people, you have to like give them some kind of valid excuse for things. That's also true, right? But deep down, you need to know the reason why you're doing something, because it's on you. It's your life. I mean, what else is there?
Purpose.
Yeah, it's your purpose.
Kind of its purpose, but not directly. Okay. I've heard this question. So basically, there's this podcast that I listen to. It's about communication and stuff like that by Stanford University, some professor in there. And he ends this podcast with, what's a 6-word sentence or 5 to 7 word sentence that sums up your experience and
With the internship.
And the advice you want to share to the world.
Just
Or just any advice.
do things you actually like, and find out what they are. Like it's so simple to say, it's hard to do. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who haven't found something that they're deeply interested in, and I feel that. But it's hard to answer that question, right? But start realizing things you don't like, and start noticing if there's a pattern between those things. Like if they tend to be very technical things, or they tend to be very problem solving, or they tend to be very mathematical or literature or whatever. But just start recognizing these patterns. Like just really take time to just sit down and just understand yourself. Honestly, one piece of advice: just understand yourself. It's, like as Socrates said, the beginning of all wisdom is knowing yourself. That's all there is.
That's a good way to end the podcast.
I hope you guys, maybe something help someone, or give someone a different insight or something unique, because I think most people talk about how peachy and good things are, and I want to delve into the other side of, is it even for you? Do you even like it? And just from my experiences, if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to like give them more details on things, just because I believe that the lights just went off. Oh shit, fuck. Yeah, I mean, because like I understand it's kind of tough, and if I can help someone, then I mean, I'll be happy to.
That's why we're doing this. But this is just the first step to helping people. Well, it was nice having you here, and fuck off now. I'm joking. Yeah, thanks for listening, and make sure that you do something about what you've learned from this conversation. It's been like, I don't know, like an hour of conversation, so you've heard a lot of stuff. Make sure you actually do something about the things you heard and apply it to your life, because it's gonna be a juicy one.